I guess.
Okay, I'd like to call this meeting to order, please. Please join me for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Mr. Wolf.
Here.
Mrs. Stoner.
Yes.
Mr. Carpenter.
Here.
Mr. Nauer.
Yes.
Mrs. Chapman. Yes. Mr. Porter.
Yes. Thank you. We have quorum. Thank you, visitors, for attending this evening. If you've not already done so, please sign in and get a copy of the agenda. There will be opportunity to speak at 2 points later in the agenda. Legal visitor comments. Minutes will be recorded and provided to council for review. Meeting minutes are official once they are approved by the village council by a majority vote.
There is no.
I'm so sorry. Oh, thank you. Would somebody close the door? Also, today's minutes will be made available online once approved and posted in the post office, this office, and made available online. Thank you. I'm seeking a motion of approval for the minutes for the council meeting August 28th, 2024.
So moved.
Thanks.
Second comment. So.
Thank you. I have a motion from Council President Wolf and a second from Council Member Porter. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call please.
Mr. Carpenter.
Yes.
Mrs. Stoner.
Abstain.
Mr. Wolf.
Yes.
Mr. Nauer.
Yes.
Mrs. Chapman.
Yes.
Mrs. Porter.
Yes. Thank you, Council. It passes. I'm now seeking a motion for approval of the council meeting minutes from September 11th, 2024.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion from Council Member Stoner. Sorry, my brain was buffering. And was it Council Member Porter for the second?
Yes.
Thank you. Any discussion? Okay. Roll call please.
Mr. Nauer.
Yes.
Mrs. Porter.
Yes.
Mrs. Chapman.
Yes.
Mr. Carpenter.
Abstain.
Mr. Wolf.
Yes.
Stoner.
Yes. It passes. Thank you, Council. And now I'm seeking a motion for approval of the minutes for the combined council committees meeting on September 18th, 2024.
Motion. Second.
I have a motion from Council Member Carpenter and a second from Council Member Porter. Any discussion? Roll call please.
Mrs. Stoner.
Abstain.
Mr. Wolf.
Yes.
Mr. Carpenter.
Yes.
Mr. Nauer.
Yes.
Mrs. Porter.
Yes.
Mrs. Chapman.
Yes. Thank you, Council. It passes. Each department in the village provides routine updates to village council and the public. Tonight we'll receive an update from the income tax administrator. Hi, Mindy. It's Mindy Kester, our administrator.
Thank you. So the revenues held steady for August, up slightly over last year, just about $8,000. And I just finalized all the necessary revisions to the returns for next year's filing, so they can they'll be ready. I'm sorry, so they will be ready for posting on the website when that's necessary. That's all I have, unless there are any questions from council.
Can't do much about.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have this time reserved on the agenda to hear comments from visitors regarding topics not listed on the agenda. Please be sure to state your name and address for the record. There's a 5-minute limit per speaker. We're very eager to hear what you have to say, so please speak loudly and clearly into the microphone. Thank you. Any comments, please?
Thank you, Mayor. My name's Alvin and my wife Becky Shockling. We live at 3307 Butternut Lane over at Lake Forest. And we had just learned on the internet about parking and the signs and all that things. Our HOA people have never contacted us anyway. Maybe they did a few other people, but we hadn't heard about it till now. And I don't know if it's too late to state what I want to say about it or not, because they've already been out there marking for street signs and the gas and the electric and water and everything. But we are against it because I've already got a light and a water tap and fire hydrant already in my yard. And if I got a sign or two, it just looks pretty bad, I think. I don't think the parking's as bad as everybody thinks it might be. There's a few spots that's on corners that maybe buses have had some trouble or something. And maybe that can be, maybe people can park a little bit different without all these here stipulations. And, yes, the speed limit should be about 25. We agree to that, but I think if you just had a sign at the front of the entrances, could be enough, maybe. We do have, our local police people do regularly come into our subdivision a lot, and we appreciate that. And, no, what am I leaving out? Okay. But, the only other thing is though, the fire hydrants, we've been up there 3 years and, ours has never been repainted, and I've noticed a lot of the other ones in the village has not. Maybe that's not something that anybody has gotten into yet or had time to. We realize, you know, time and people are sparse, so, I don't know if I'm too late or not, am I?
You're not too late.
Okay. All right, well, I just want, because there's been a lot of traffic on the internet about not wanting this. I have not heard of very many that does want it. So I wanted to stop by and voice our opinion, me and my wife, so.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Yes.
Thank you.
And if we can just talk about this for a moment, it was going to be in my mayor's report. So just to give everyone a background, we have an HOA that was concerned. There have been at least a couple of fender benders, and there was an observation that on the roadways that have a nice curve to them, that's where these tend to be happening, because there's parking on both sides, folks have cars there. Then also there's the fear of kids coming between the cars in the development, and then also there is always concern about folks speeding. And so the HOA had inquired about introducing speed limit signs, which aren't there currently, and also introducing at least single-sided parking, similar to what we did over at Lake Forest, or I'm sorry, at Lakewood Drive, which you may remember we did recently. So the discussion proceeded really quite quickly, it sounds like, and so I did receive several resident phone calls, and I'm sorry I had not called you back. This is my first day back in the office. And I did also receive a voicemail and called back. I did actually have a chance to call back the HOA president. The HOA president feels terrible. He said they just thought it was kind of like a nothing burger. Let's just go ahead and put some signs up and get this addressed right away. But there actually are quite a few citizens who are very unhappy about it. And some folks have lived there for a couple of decades, and that it's been parking on both sides of the road the entire time. So what I had pitched was convening people together to kind of hash it out. You said it at the podium. There are probably some places that are problematic, but does that mean we need to have one-sided parking throughout the entire development? So what I'd like to do is explore and see if we can find something that the sensible center of us can agree to, yeah, it makes sense that on this curve, we probably should have some limitations, but maybe in the straight areas, we could get away with parking on both sides. So that is what he and I spoke about, and that's what I'd like to do, is bring folks together and see if we can work something out so that we can all. And I love your idea. I had not heard this, and I don't think you left it in your voicemail. Could we do just at the entrance of the subdevelopment at both the entrances, just say the entire thing has a speed limit effects?
I mean, at least try that first.
So thank you for coming this evening. Sorry you had to make the trip in.
That seems to be a reasonable way to address that problem. Because they have one size fits all sign, you know. Good idea.
Any other visitor comments? Hi.
Todd Messenger, 951 West Main Street. I just had a comment about, how we're letting residents know about meetings like tonight. And I just fear that nobody's getting the memo. So I think the meeting was posted on the village's, Facebook page on August 22nd. I didn't see anything else after that, and what I'd like to see is not only more postings, reminders of these meetings, but what, describe what it is. Including me, I had no idea what a PRD was, or planned residential development, or what zoning was, and I'm still ignorant on a lot of that stuff, but there's a lot of people that I think would have a vested interest in the outcome of these meetings if we could get the word to them. And don't take this the wrong way, but I think I counted up like 15 or 18 posts on the village website about the Pie Festival. The Pie Festival is a great thing. I applaud you guys for doing events like that, but a meeting with the magnitude of what this public hearing was just about, I think is equally as important, and I don't think we're getting that message to the residents of the village. Thanks.
Thank you.
If I can elaborate on Tom's comment, I just came on council the first of the year, and a year or two before I was up here, I was in the audience, and he is correct, it's really hard to follow. I think we get our information in front of us and diagrams in front of us, and it's really hard for the public and the residents to understand what all we see and what's going on. I think we could do a better job of getting some more information out there a little better.
So I'm not being facetious when I say this at all. If you see an example out there of somebody who's doing it great, like another community that you feel like they've figured out how to get the information out and get residents to come, send me a link, or, give me something to go off of. I mean, none of us are professional. We may seem like it, but none of us are professional politicians, right? Like, we're trying to figure out how to do this the best way. So if you've seen something that you think works better, I am delighted to steal someone else's great idea.
Mayor,
Yes.
may I add some comments about how we communicate this, just so that we're all aware, and if there's any additional ways that we could suggest communicating this, we are definitely open to that, but I want to make sure we're all on the same page of how it was communicated. Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay, great. Based on code, we communicate this in several different ways. We post it on Facebook. We provide printed out copies to the post office here at the library, because we have to post in multiple public locations. We do an ad in the newspaper. This public hearing was included in the emailed newsletter that goes out to residents that have signed up for that. And in addition, we mail out certified letters to all of the residents within 200 feet of the development, letting them know that this public hearing happening. So as much as I completely agree, we post about a lot of the different social activities that are happening in the community. That is because we are not spending the time or the money or funds advertising these things, or advertising the social options in the paper. But we are doing that with these public hearings. We are also making sure that they're posted in public places and sending out the certified letters, but open to suggestions on how we can continue to reach people.
Yeah, there's a list of upcoming meetings that's on the water bill as well. Sure.
Yeah, and I don't have the answers that, if I did, I'd tell you. But I don't think people in the village are getting it, no matter how it's done, and I guess, again, I'm not throwing blame on anybody or saying you're doing it wrong. I'm just saying the Pie Festival was a huge success. Lots of people came to it. And there were lots of communication. So maybe that's the key, not only repetitive, post about it, but also what it means, like what, not just this is and maybe you have to do that legally, I don't know, but not, just not something like, hey, this is a meeting about a proposed development, a PRD or whatever, I don't think residents are that interested if you have a new subdivision coming to town, as much as they would maybe the type of subdivision it is, or the type of house it is, or what, just maybe a better explanation of the meeting. And again, maybe you're not allowed to do that legally or something, I don't know, but.
I don't think we're just allowed from explaining things.
Yeah, and I think, so if you took the average resident that was like me and never came to meetings before, they don't know what any of this stuff is, and I still struggle with what it actually means, but some type of an explanation of what, what it means to this community. It's not just a subdivision, it's this type of subdivision, and see if maybe that draws more people's opinions, because down the road, they're gonna see something they're not gonna like, and then they're gonna say, what are you guys doing? Well, and then you as council is gonna say, well, come to our meetings, you would have known, and so it's just a vicious cycle, I think, and if you could somehow, and like I said, if I knew the answer, I'd tell you, I just don't.
We do. Hi, Joni Fennell, 1049 Kelly Drive. I just want to add to that. I also looked back, because sometimes you guys change the meetings. So I looked back last night to see if this meeting had been canceled or changed or whatever. And I went back to the original date too, which a lot of times you guys do repost about meetings that are coming up. So that would be helpful to have that more than once. And just so you know, there are a lot of people that do not use Facebook. I get this from I'm the treasurer of my family reunion, and I get it from everybody all the time. I don't use Facebook. You need to mail it to me. And I'm like, snail mail? They're like, yes, snail mail. So one of the things that I liked about the Microsoft announcement, they sent out a mailer to every resident, as far as I know. I know I got more than once. So something like that, or something as huge as this new subdivision going in, I think is warranted. Yes, it's an extra expense for the city, but I think that would be warranted for that situation, something that large. So, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Next, we're moving into legislation. And starting with ordinance 2824, it's an ordinance to vacate a certain unnamed alley running between in-lots 197 and 198. This is the third reading. Seeking a motion.
Oh, I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
The whole thing, delighted to do it, that we will all be together. It's not long, thank goodness. I am seeking a motion to adopt ordinance 2824, which is an ordinance to vacate a certain unnamed alley running between in-lots 197 and 198.
I think my question was hung up on, are you going to do a third reading prior to a vote? Or is that gonna be together?
Normally, on an agenda, when we have third reading,
Mhm.
then that's when I seek a
Motion.
motion to adopt, yes.
See, that was my question.
Gotcha.
Motion. To adopt.
Okay, so I have a motion from Councilmember Carpenter, and I have a second from Council President Wolf. Any discussion?
And I think Anil brought this up too, but I just want to put it out there. I think we're setting precedent that there's a lot of alleys in town that people are gonna be wanting to come in and claim. And I'm just asking if we're prepared for that.
Well,
My opinion is every alley is different.
different.
This one here runs directly in the middle of the firehouse. So we're not, what are we gonna do with it? They own properties on both sides of the alley, so-called alley.
So-called alley, but still Hebron property. Yeah.
Well, if you go around and look at all the property that, so everybody that thinks Hebron owns, there's a hell of a lot of property.
A lot.
I mean, the right of way comes right up to my garage in front of my house. But I know it, I take care of it. Why should the town benefit from that? I don't,
Yeah.
every alley is different, every situation is gonna be different.
The other thing is, I think that at some point we discussed actually developing a policy that we would follow in the future. And we were trying to be responsive to a specific resident at a specific time with a specific lot that is not as problematic perhaps as some other lots might be. Moreover, that resident is doing all the maintenance on that lot right now. So I think folks felt, I mean, I feel like planning and zoning, we were probably more in line with how you're speaking, like, what does this mean big picture for other similar examples? But in this particular case, the question was, can we address this one and at the same time start moving forward with development of a policy? Any other discussion? Please.
Mr. Wolf?
Yes.
Mrs. Stone?
Yes.
Mr. Carpenter?
Yes.
Mr. Mauer?
Yes,
Mrs. Chapman?
Yes.
Ms. Porter? No.
Thank you, council. It passes. The next item is ordinance 2924. It's an ordinance amending the section of Title 9, Section 965, titled Village Parks. This is the second reading. So council, at our next meeting, we will be looking to adopt.
There'll be some amendment to the language, yes,
Yes.
I'm sorry.
No worries.
So do I make this as a motion? Okay, as a motion, we wanted to make an amendment to 2924 to amend exhibit A, and more specifically, section 9611 of this ordinance as follows. Do I need to read all?
I think it's usually.
Read it all.
Okay. A, no person except authorized employees or agents of the village licensed concealed carry permit holders in full compliance with the high-rise code, and those individuals who are legally permitted to openly carry a firearm shall possess a firearm in the parks of the village of Hebron. And B, no person shall have a deadly weapon, dangerous ordinance, including fireworks, pellet gun, air rifle, slingshot, or missile propelling device within the parks of the village of Hebron without permission from the village administrator.
If I may add why this came about, it was the comments made by the police chief and then Attorney Rose we came up with revised language because previously that was not clear. So we took, Attorney Rose came back with revised village, that's for your consideration to be amended language for this ordinance.
Wouldn't we do that on the third reading? Because we're not voting on anything
That can
tonight.
happen at any hour.
Yeah.
Okay.
Motion to amend.
So when we vote on this next week, it will already include that language. I will, okay,
If in fact it passes.
gotcha.
So you need a motion to amend.
We already have a motion.
Yeah, I just have a comment if I may. Thank you. The last line on B says, without permission of the village administrator. I had just a minute to talk with Mr. Chen, and he assures me, and I have no reason to believe otherwise, that he would consult with the police department about this. Well, that's fine while he is here, but if he is not here, you get some renegade or village administrator. That individual can just give permission for a person to carry a deadly weapon, dangerous ordinance, et cetera. I would like to see that further modified in conjunction with the Hebron Police Department. Because I think that possibility does exist.
So,
I know you can't micromanage everything, but you're giving a lot, to me, you're giving a lot of responsibility to one individual.
well, that hypothetical individual, I would have already fired, but let's continue. So I've got a second reading here. I have a motion to amend it and a second on that motion to amend it, and now I have we do not yet have a second on that motion to amend it.
No.
Okay, so pin in that.
I'll second it.
Okay, so we have a second reading, which has been, we have a motion to amend that second reading. We have a second to amend that second reading, and that ordinance. And, my question to legal counsel is, do we need to resolve that before we can amend it yet again?
No,
Okay,
you do receive the amendment if that's.
okay, so we have an amendment. We have a request to further amend. That was a motion, by the way. I know.
Actually, it was a comment, but it seems like a pretty good motion.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor to further amend, indicating that not just the village administrator, but in fact, in conjunction with the chief of police. Does that have a second?
I'll say. No, I can't say that.
Yes, you can.
I can't second it.
You can.
Oh, her amendment, yeah, I think it's a good to add the police department, though, yes. Second.
Okay, so if we were to vote right now, we'd be voting on the secondary modification.
Correct.
Then we would vote on the primary modification, correct?
Yep.
All right, let's do it. Before anybody makes additional, are you gonna make another? Oh, for heaven's sake.
The only thing I was gonna say was that the reason why Mr. Chen is on there to begin with was because he oversees more or less the parks.
And that may or may not be true, but what I'm getting at is trying to protect the village, because like I say, you might have a rogue or renegade, village administrator who's saying, yeah, you want to hear again, okay, you know? Maybe not so much.
Well, I agree with Valerie, he would be gone.
Well, but I don't want anybody else to be going in the process.
Yeah.
Ordinance is also spelled wrong in me, just say that.
No, it's ordinance.
Okay, or it's
I meant
ordinance or whatever.
That is correct.
Yes. If we're talking about the same one.
B,
Line one. Certainly different ordinance, sure.
Well, there's also a FIFO instead of a rifle, but I'm sure we all know that.
I'm getting that.
It's ordinance as it appears.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Since there's no further discussion before anyone changes their mind, shall we vote on the secondary modification? Roll call, please.
No.
Mr. Stoner,
Yes.
Mr. Carpenter,
Yes.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Mrs. Chadwick,
Yes.
Mrs. Porter.
Yes.
Okay, so the motion modifying the modification, indicating that the, privilege would be granted in conjunction with the police chief by village administrator has passed. Now we move into the primary modification, which I've completely forgotten at this point. Thank you, the lengthy written out language. That speaks to, who would do what. Please, let's do roll call before anyone changes their mind.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Mrs. Carter, or Mrs. Chadwick.
Yes.
Mrs. Porter.
Yes.
Mr. Carpenter. Yes. Stoner.
Yes.
Mr. Wolf.
Yes.
Thank you, council, both passed. Modifying ordinance. Ooh, that was 29-24, right? Yes. Okay, so now we move on to resolution 2413. It's a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement with Veolia Environments SA for a traveling bridge media filter rehabilitation project and declaring an emergency. This is the second reading. The next two items, we.
Yeah, if we can ask for this third reading to be suspended and vote on this today.
Okay, so
Because we'd
I'm,
like this project to get moving forward.
okay, so I'm seeking a
I
motion.
move that someone else started this. I move that, let's see, what number is that? 24-13, be declared an emergency.
You move that we suspend the readings
Yes.
of resolution 2413.
Yeah.
I'll second.
I have a motion to suspend the readings of resolution 2413 from Councilmember Porter and a second from Council President Wolf. Any discussion? Roll, please.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Mr. Carpenter.
Yes.
Mrs. Stoner.
Yes.
Mrs. Chadwick.
Yes.
Mrs. Porter.
Yes.
Mr.
Yes.
It passes. I'm now seeking a motion to adopt resolution 2413.
So moved.
I'll second.
I have a motion to adopt from Council Member Nauer and a second from Council Member Chapman. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Stoner.
Yes.
Mrs. Chadwick.
Yes.
Mrs. Porter.
Yes.
Mr. Miller.
Yes.
Mr. Carpenter.
Yes.
Mr. Wolf.
Yes.
Thank you, Council. The next two items, we are seeking to delay the first reading by one meeting. Is that problematic? If we need to make any modification?
Just, just to be tabled, because I will, just like what we have, 28, 24, because we are making changes as we moving forward. I would like to make sure there'll be no more changes. So I'm asking these two items to be tabled until the next meeting.
Do we have to actually table them? Okay,
First reading, so unless somebody suspends, there's no action taken.
okay, but can they have a first reading next council meeting when we've updated the language appropriately?
No, that would be a new ordinance.
Okay, so
Okay.
we do want to
We're
table.
probably gonna let this thing die a slow and painful death. like
We'll just
that.
leave it and let it fall off,
Correct.
but we're gonna add two new ones next time.
Yeah, okay, okay.
Thank you. Need I read them if we're planning to abandon them? Ah, man, I knew you were gonna say that. Okay. Step legislation 3024, an ordinance to include a new subsection in the codified code section title 9, a section 945 titled stormwater utility. First reading. Resolution 2414, a resolution setting the base rate for the stormwater utility ordinance code as codified in section 945 of the Village of Hebron codified code section. Again, first reading. That was fun. Okay, so now we move on to council action items. And before we get too far in this, I'd like to talk about the relationship between the 2025 budget and the 2025 payroll. It's called payroll increase, but it's an annual raise. So it is proper for us to have raises be passed, if they are going to be passed at all, after our budget has been approved. It would be improper for them to run in tangent together, because the assumption is that the budget is approved at the same time that the raises would be voted on, and that is in fact not what we ought to do. We ought to move forward with passing our budget, and even if it trails just a week or two, that still allows deference to the budget passing appropriately before we offer a raise, right? At this point, that's our intention, but still having that teased from one another is appropriate for us to do. So having said that, I would ask that council not take action on directing legislation to be drawn up this week related to a payroll increase. But in fact, I would ask that you do take action on the 2025 budget as you've seen it, and my understanding is fully support as it stands. All of that to say, I'm seeking a motion to direct our solicitor to draft an ordinance adopting the 2025 budget as presented.
Motion. Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Carpenter and a second from Council President Wolf. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call please.
Yes.
Mr. Nauer.
Yes.
Mr. Carpenter.
Yes.
Mrs. Stoner.
Yes.
Mr. Wolf.
Yes.
Porter.
Yes.
Thank you, council. The next item is the employee recognition program. It's my understanding that that was discussed at length at the combined committees meeting. Thank you. Thank you.
Sorry, didn't mean to
No, not at all. And I didn't know if there was further discussion or if council would be inclined to move to adopt
I would move to adopt the employee recognition.
program. Thank you.
I'll second.
Okay, so I have a motion from Councilmember Carpenter and a second from Councilmember Wolf. Any discussion or questions? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Porter.
Yes.
Mrs. Chapman.
Yes.
Mr. Nauer.
Yes.
Mr. Wolf.
Yes.
Mrs. Stoner.
Yes.
Mr. Carpenter.
Yes.
Thank you, council. I appreciate that. The next item is the administrator's report.
Thank you. I had a couple of things to update councils about. First one is the fire hydrant flushing. It started about 2 weeks ago. It's ended last Friday. As a result of the flushing, they have identified about 13 hydrants that are not in service that need to be need to be repaired and replaced. And there is another 4 that are not in service. So they will, the water department will continue to work on that, finding the time to repair and to replace those fire hydrants that are not in compliance. The good thing is, since we are going to upgrade the water line on Broadway, so some of the hydrant will be replaced at that time. We also have the backflow inspection taking place the last couple of weeks. We have sent out almost 30 letters, and then we'll follow up with the businesses that have not responded to scheduled inspection to verify the conditions and on the backflow preventers. And on August 17th and 18th, Ohio EPA Division of Drinking Water and Groundwater will be coming to the water treatment plant to do the survey. Just to let you know. A smoke test that was conducted yesterday. The city crew, along with other like rural water development, and they have staff working with us, total about 10 individuals, covering about 60% of the residential in the village. They identified about 14 minor violations, but one illegal connection. So the letter will go out to that property owner to disconnect. The next step is water reclamation will look at the infiltration issues in the industrial park. So we'll develop the capital improvement to address those infiltration issues. The public works is doing the finishing up the drainage ditch cleanup. And then the parking lot of this complex will go through the crack seal tomorrow, just for one day. So the employee parking and the visitor parkings will take place across the street at the church parking lot. Hopefully it won't cause a whole lot of inconvenience to the residents or the library patrons, but that's just one day thing. I'm hoping that everybody can endure that inconvenience. We have just finished replacing the 6 units of the HVAC this year. So next year we're scheduling to replace 7 units in the next year's budget. That's all I have.
You did replace them already?
We did replace them. It took them 3 days, but you know, they are the originals, so.
Can I go back to the hydrants?
Yes,
You said somebody weren't working, is that like cause a problem or an issue with the fire department? Is it marked and is that like?
there will be definitely more. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yep. And then the
Sounds
Superintendent Jason also will notify the fire department which fire hydrants are not in service.
I know insurance, when you
That's
get
what,
insurance on your house, it's because you have a hydrant close, and if it's not working and there's a fire,
Yeah.
and it could cause some issues down the road.
so they'll find a time to fix and repair those.
Right.
What kind of time frame is there on the repair and replacement of hydrants? Did I miss something if possible?
But right now they're looking at what parts they may need to get. And depending on how long the lead time is going to be.
Yeah. because-
So
yeah,
I cannot
sure.
tell you specific time frame, but they're looking into what needs to be ordered now.
My question would be, how did it get to that point? Have we identified that?
It's hard to say, some of the fire hydrant that was installed 1950s, they're still in good condition. And some of the newer model, some reason they're not.
A lot of the parts are made of brass.
Yes,
Yeah, probably.
yes,
Soften and break.
correct.
Yeah,
And we've had this before when we flushed hydrants, you know, those hydrants are made to snap off and we've opened them up before and they literally twist inside the valve because they're made to snap off.
Well, my point was, it's not due to lack of testing. It's
No.
due to equipment failure.
That's right.
Just to clarify though, one of the things I feel like we talked about was that historically, we haven't done this every year.
Yeah, it needs to be done on an annual basis.
And it
Yeah.
hasn't been,
Yeah, the last time was done 2 years ago,
right,
I
but
know of.
did they, I don't know that they did the whole village 2 years ago, is what I'm trying to say. My recollection was, it was, you know, okay, we did some here, did some there, did some there, and this year we did it all, right? And so that was also a challenge culturally for our residents, because when residents were told, oh, by the way, over the next 8 weeks, we're gonna be doing this thing and you may have to not wash your clothes or take a shower or whatever. I think that was a shock for some of our residents. So all that to say, this will become an annual thing and we do need to just get folks a little more ready for it. But I think the fact that we did it this year, hopefully it will be less of a shock for folks next year.
I have to get my memory back going, but I think that's regulated through the NFPA, and I believe that you're only required to do a percentage a year, I think, not a full 100%.
And I don't remember exactly when we painted the hydrants. I know they greased them and
Right.
checked them out then, so I did 3 years ago, but I didn't paint the fire.
But we had a resident tonight saying that his hydrant needs painted. So,
Well, I mean, they paid up, but
oh, okay,
if the paint, they can't get paint to make it stay good.
okay.
And then you get too much paint, and then you got, actually, it really, what you need to do is blast it to get it all off, and then cover it.
That's all I have.
Thank you. Next item is council members' reports. I will start with council member Porter, please.
She doesn't have anything at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Council member.
I don't have anything.
Thank you. Council member.
The only thing I have talked to Tom today, he said everything went great. He said it couldn't went any better. And the guy, and I'm not sure it's the same one, but the one that they had smoked where they come out of the downspout, the guy actually called while I was there, and he took care of the problem.
Right there. Yep.
It was, like, I thought that was a plus for us, for their little country.
Thank you. Councilmember Carpenter. Okay, Councilmember Stover.
I just had one thing, on the corner, the north corner of Pence and Kelly, there's a hole, like by the curb, and it was covered. Like it had little pylon things with tape, and those are gone, but the hole's still there.
Yeah, I think that one of our residents will contact me about that. Yes, we'll follow, yes, Cinco, that's correct, yeah.
I wasn't sure, does that have anything to do with the hydrant?
No, it's a stormwater issue,
Okay.
yeah.
It's the
But
same
the
thing.
cones are missing now?
Yeah, there
And
was
they-
3 skinny cones with caution tape, and now they're gone.
Yeah. We'll look back.
It's a single.
Yeah.
They could remove the cones until they repaired it, but
And I'm like, this, someone take the cones, they're not there, I just wanna make sure we're aware.
They
They're
need
not there. Thank you. Oh.
Thank you. Council President Paul.
Yeah, speaking to the not getting the word out for the meetings and everything, would be a good plug for the electronic sign.
Like, what do you think?
Electronic sign.
I'm in agreement with that.
I want the note to pass it down.
and it's where you're gonna put it.
It's in the budget.
But
The green space,
Green
that big, and high and main, while people are sitting at the traffic light.
We don't drive down through there.
We'll see what we have money for. We may be using just slate and some chalk, but we're gonna have something. All right, council, so now mayor's report. Our one, Mr. Comment about the, speed limit and, one-side parking took my whole agenda, so that's all I have for you. The next item on here is another opportunity for visitor comments. This is the second time reserved on the agenda to hear comments from visitors. Anyone? Please state your name and address again.
Jody Fennell, 1049 Kelly Drive. One thing I forgot that I did not mention about the subdivision is the amount of traffic that is going to be pulling in. I live on Kelly Drive, and seeing that there's only going to be that entrance on Lakewood Drive and then their entrance for all that extra traffic, it's just gonna be crazy. And we already have our enough time with people zipping up and down the road already. And all these little kids out running and playing, you know, they're still out in the streets playing. They shouldn't be, but. And then you're gonna add all these extra cars. It's just gonna be way more than what I would ever want to live in Hebron. And I know a lot of other people feel the same way. So, yeah, because I've talked to my neighbors and they feel the same way about the amount of traffic and the, you know, just the congestion that's gonna happen. So I love growth. I'm very big on that. But yeah, we just need to spread it out or do half the amount of houses, you know?
So before you
So,
walk away from
yeah.
that podium.
Yeah.
If you're willing to do the mental exercise, I mean, obviously that development is moving forward, they're following the rules that we have in place, but the question I always wonder is, do we have the right rules in place for the next time someone comes in and wants to develop?
Mhm.
And you said at the very end, if it was fewer homes, you'd feel differently.
Yeah.
We need to figure out what the fewer homes number is.
Mhm.
Right, because the other development we're considering is much larger and it has to have 2 entrances and exits active right away.
Mhm.
And so what I'm wondering is, what does that look like? Like, what should our development structure look like so that when we have 5 homes, maybe you don't feel different, you know, maybe you feel like that's not a problem, but when we have 100 homes, we feel like we need more entrances and exits. So all that to say, if you sit down and look at that plan, I'd love to hear some people's ideas, because
Yeah.
this is a moving target for us all the time. If you looked at the developments we had back in the 60s, right? It was very different, and that connected to an existing street as well, it connected to Hamilton, right?
Right,
And so
yeah.
these conversations aren't new. The question is, what are we putting in place so that the next development is informed by the current one? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So if you'd be willing to think about it, I know a lot of people that'd be willing to listen.
That's what we think
Thank you.
now, we're talking about bringing Canyon Road straight to 40,
Oh,
so that you're adding more traffic.
right,
So
Yeah.
it's gonna get interesting around here.
yeah. So what, okay.
I was just gonna say, when they put that addition in, Christopher Court, Westview, and Hamilton are all set up to be continued.
Yeah, but that was like 15 years ago.
Yeah.
It's been a long time,
I'd
yeah,
say, yeah, more like
yeah,
40 years ago.
yeah.
Well, in the market was different. I mean,
Yeah.
if somebody bought a house there 20 years ago, they weren't so worried that development was coming.
Right.
Somebody that bought a house there 20 days ago knows it's coming.
Yeah,
So, I
Yep.
mean, it's just a different time, but right now is the time to make better decisions for coming development.
mhm. So what's that subdivision has already been passed? You guys have already passed, is that what you guys?
So the plan that we saw tonight
Mhm.
opens the door for them to go to the next phase, but they're following the rules that we had in place at the time that we passed the plan.
Okay,
It's kind of like you can't renegotiate
yeah.
after you sign the contract.
Well, I can see the picture they showed where they had the huge houses. And then he said it was 2.4 homes on 1 acre.
Yep.
Those pictures are not realistic. I can tell you that because, I mean, my home is on, I think, a 3/4 acre. There's no way you could put that many homes unless they're like this together. So,
More like 3/10 of an acre.
yeah, so, yeah, okay, thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you.
Can I go back to the Forest Bridge, they're talking about putting parking on just one side of the street? How they gonna decide which side? Because it was
Flip a coin.
Is it?
Yeah.
No, yeah, well, that's the new development, the forest, yeah, it's already out there, it's like. If I'm used to driving home, with cars on each side of the street, then all of a sudden I come home, and they say, oh, guess what? All the cars in development's gonna park on your side of the street now, I'm gonna be highly upset.
Well, that's part of the challenge, right? I mean, most of that, well, at least half of that development has been in place for a couple of decades. So that's why this conversation needs to happen, and it's gonna be a hard conversation. There are gonna be people that are frustrated. The question is, can we find something that the supermajority is okay with? That's what we're gonna try to do. There are probably gonna be people, like if I lived on the inside of a curve and I'm not allowed to park there anymore, I'm gonna be annoyed because I've got 2 teenagers and where am I gonna put their cars, right? So all that to say, I'm not saying we're gonna find a slam dunk, but we've gotta find something that keeps people safe, prevents fender benders where we can, but doesn't take away somebody's ability to live there.
Right.
And mind you, that, tell me if I'm wrong on this, but I think zoning says that they're supposed to have 2.5 parking spaces on the property.
We can research that for you.
Yes. So,
Yeah,
I mean,
read
it's
it
not
the
gonna
other
be as
day.
congested as what everybody thinks, because.
They have
it's
to have
hard
2 in the garage and 2 outside, I just read it today, I think it might be 2.5.
2.5.
But still, I mean, most people's garages are full of stuff.
Yeah, you could see parking where
Then I'll also
the.
go to the point to
That's
where
what's coming.
Kenny can back me up on this on two things, plowing snow
Oh,
and getting the fire truck down through there.
It
Excuse,
looks like our economic development director wants to say something.
hi, something in regards to the zoning code and what you're mentioning in regards to parking places that I just want to remind everyone is that one, a good reminder is that the fire department has been a part of this process since the very beginning. So they are evaluating the preliminary plans. They will look at the final plans as well. Some of the comments that were mentioned this evening, we are just at prelim phase right now, which is just the initial phase of the design of the development, some of the, basics, but over the course of the next 6 months to 1 year, there's going to be a lot of work that's done, a lot of engineers, a lot of other outside parties coming in, including a traffic study that is required for all of these developments. But in regards to the 2.5 parking spaces available, a PRD does not abide by those same requirements. A PRD allows for more flexibility when it comes to lot size. And so I can't tell you exactly what it is off the top of my head here in the not so sunny state of Florida right now, but I can definitely follow up with that information. However, I just want to be very transparent in the fact that a PRD does not match the exact same standards as your R1 or your R2 that currently exist in the village.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is a review of expenses. Unless otherwise noted, it's understood that council members have reviewed the expenses report provided and have no questions. Okay. Just want to draw your attention to the upcoming meetings and events at the bottom of the agenda. And I am seeking a motion to adjourn at 7:10.
Motion.
Second. I have a motion from Councilmember Carpenter and a second from Stoner. Roll call.
Ms. Moore?
Yes.
Mrs. Stoner?
Yes.
Mr. Carpenter?
Yes.
Mr. Nauer?
yes.
Ms. Chapman?